All right, Donna Susek,
Here.
Walter Purcell,
Here.
Tina Sakala.
She's trying to
this
log
is-
on right now. She's
Okay.
having
Yeah,
an issue.
Yeah, this
Cindy
is Scott. I just sent her
Mancini.
the code.
Let's see, Cindy. Marie Peisner,
Yes, here.
Scott Ryder.
Here. Here.
Oh, there you are. You can see your face. Tim Neville,
Here.
Doug McSellen,
Here.
Tina LeBlanc,
Here.
Wendy Costa,
Here.
Charlotte Riley,
Here.
Bethany Olette,
Here.
Melissa Everett, Jaime Cisneros,
Here.
Jeff Leonowitz,
Here.
and is Chris Cycleon? I don't see Chris.
I was just on the phone with Chris. He's not going to be able to attend today.
Okay, and I think, is that you, Donald? I see.
That is I.
Did you get Tom? Tom?
Tom, I'm here.
I see you too, Tom. All right.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from September 24th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, show of hands. Do I have any against? Any abstentions? Okay. We have no special guests, old business. I guess because Chris is not here, we probably have no update on the phase 1 or phase 2 monies that we should be receiving unless Jeff has some information.
So I was on the phone with Chris just before the meeting started, and at this time, there's no updates on 1 or 2. And then the only thing with 3 is they're going to be going after the chimney this holiday weekend. With the professional development day on Tuesday, and then the kids being hybrid model on Wednesday, they're going to be pushing really hard to get everything wrapped up on this 5-day stretch.
And Tom, do you have anything to add to that as to how it's been going?
I think things have been moving along pretty well. And we just got to get together, I think, here in the next week or so or 2 and do our final punch list. And we should start to wrap up the project and get together the final paperwork.
Okay, great. Maybe somebody can bring us a picture of something that was done and it's right. We've seen enough stuff that's not right. If somebody could do that, that would be really great. So, just one of those things for me that, nobody ever brings you a picture of anything that's, look at how great this looks.
Just bring us a picture of the check. That's what we want, the check.
The check, yeah, I know. Everybody wants the check. We don't get the check here, though, the rest of us. We have to find our reward somewhere else down the line. Okay, thanks, Tom, and thanks, Jeff, for the update on that. So, that's a really great thing that the old section of that roof now is all complete, and we now can work on our plan to do whatever else we can get done on the other roofs. But so we have still on the table, because we didn't go to referendum, the Eli Whitney and the Hazard Memorial roof replacement projects. So they're out there, and someday we'll be looking at those. Energy performance contract, any new information?
So there's a couple things we have moving on energy performance contract. I had an update from Greg Simmons, the Deputy Director of Finance, and he brought those questions he's bringing them to the bond council about, the leasing and, the M&B. So that seems to be a good step in the right direction to get that resolved. And then I actually had a phone call with Honeywell. They were actually interested in seeing if there's any energy needs that they could do at some of the other locations across town for an assessment and possible capital upgrade with the annex and, other buildings that weren't necessarily on. I told them I was going to the meeting, and I'd kind of put that in your court and kind of get your opinion, so we're not, wasting their time if it's something that we're not looking to pursue necessarily at this moment.
I'm going to open that up to the floor. I do have an opinion on that. So can I have a show of hands or speak out nicely? What's your opinion on that?
Don't really have one.
No. Okay, Tim, go ahead.
I get, my question is, are we ready to answer that question? Because if we're talking about the annex or anything like that, we're not ready. We're just talking in the preliminary stages. I certainly think it's something that we could do. I just don't think now is the right time to do it, unless you guys see some other projects.
Well, I guess the thing for me is if Honeywell is interested in doing it, maybe I might be interested in listening to the annex, because that one is costing us a lot of money to keep the lights on and to do things. And we seem to have more and more and more things in that building.
And I would just be interested in more of what they have in mind before we make a decision.
Well, not going to do anything. We're just going to listen to.
Yeah, I mean, they know a lot about our buildings.
Right.
I'm happy to listen.
Yep.
Yeah, they brought up some interesting points about lighting and trying to pursue, rebates, which are always interesting to get. So I'll follow up with an email and I'll see if they would like to look at the place first to get a synopsis. And then if you'd like to invite them on, I'm sure they'd be willing to speak to the committee.
Okay, thanks.
Doug
Next.
has his hand up.
Who is? Oh,
Doug,
Doug,
he has his hand up.
thank you.
Jeff, I know the sewer plant's under construction and I'm sure it's got LED and all that. But is there any other areas that we can look at in that, since that's our largest power consumption building per se?
Well, the sewer plant's all new, Doug.
Well, not all of it, but most of it, right?
It's
Think
pretty
all of
much, yeah, I mean, Donald's on, he can answer it a lot clearer, but it's pretty much being completely touched. I don't think there's an area that hasn't been rehabbed or rebuilt at this point.
All the motors, the large consumption motors and stuff are all being replaced?
Yeah, they had the blowers were 200 horsepower. Now they're down to 100
Okay.
horsepower. Then, everything is as energy efficient as we can make it through there. So
Okay, great.
It is up to the newest codes. So,
Okay. Thank you.
yep.
Okay, no more comments or anything? And Jeff, you seem to have a feel for what you're gonna do. Clean energy, we had the Green Bank come to the town council. Hopefully everybody got a chance to watch it. Any comments on what Green Bank was saying and maybe what they heard from the council? Gina, you chimed in at town council. Want to chime in now?
No, I think I said everything I was. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yep.
Can you? Oh, they can't hear me.
Yes.
Can you guys? Oh, you can. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I think I said everything that I needed to at the meeting. I think it's something that.
Well, you made the point, I think, on the council floor about, looking at buildings that we didn't know that we would keep for 20 years. And I think we kind of do know what buildings we probably would keep for 20 years.
But do we though?
Well, I don't think you're going to get rid of the town hall.
That's true.
Yeah, I think we could
But,
make.
also, you're not going to get rid of the high school. You're not going to get rid of the middle school. So, I mean, I thought, as a committee, we knew that was part of the equation, that we would be only looking at place, even land that. And also, we may have asked Green Bank if there was a way that solar can be sold to the next owner as well. I see that.
And I mean, if what we're talking about is power purchase agreement, then
Right.
it would probably, if we pick the buildings that are most likely to be long-term in-town ownership, but something changes, that, the agreement, the panels would go with the new owner and it would be no loss to the town. So.
Well, Melissa, I found myself very at a loss at that meeting. I needed some of your information that you always have on.
I
your
am so sorry. I actually had a I will invoke, I just had to send a kitty cat to kitty cat heaven. And I have been very in the cleanup from that. So I apologize.
Right. I think that some of the town council people miss the fact that this is a organization that works with municipalities so that federal incentives can be garnished and they would receive, and the towns would receive, benefit from the Green Bank being able to access the federal incentives.
Would it help if either I, as a citizen, or this committee as a group, were to summarize some points that are takeaways and just reinforce them in a letter to the council?
Well, I think that might help, but also, did Green Bank is where we used to get, remember we got the
We
credits
got our
for
incentive
solar?
payments. Yeah, they were involved in incentive payments to the towns. We've,
Right,
received.
and I think that, we had counselors that didn't know that we actually did that we have incentivized the citizens, and we have, received benefits from that.
Mhm.
So maybe a little summary on that, because I know we got the solar benches and we had some lighting, some crosswalk stuff, but I never got closure as to how everything.
Yeah, we didn't complete that. There's still some money in the town account.
That's what I thought, and I wasn't sure, but
Yeah, I got you actually got Deb to help me find that. So I would draft something and perhaps this committee would review it. And I also, would be happy to just like pop a quick letter to the editor, to the JI or something, just saying, so happy this happened.
right, and also I can bring it up in the counselor comments on special meetings of the council. So because I felt like there was more information that they could have understood that, but I think all in all, I think, we need to look at, solar is not going away. It is something that we need to have a presence in. And I would like to, see us move forward to at least having them look at, if at least the Henry Barnard School.
Mhm.
I know Eli
We as a
Whitman
committee can
looked
begin.
at years and years ago, but I just think that we need to look at it more open-mindedly.
Yeah, and I want to
So
say,
I'm going to keep pushing on that from my perspective.
Yeah, I want to suggest kind of even more strongly than I have that every building we look at, we should consider the option. When we're having research done on a building, when we're having options generated, we should look at, is the site acceptable and what would be the economics? And we don't have to act, but we should know.
Right.
And we should get it consistently. I was wondering how Kasha felt about the presentation.
I
She
haven't
took a
talked
big
to
step.
Kasha yet. It's on my list of things to vet with her. I felt like that there was a misunderstanding. I felt of what Green Bank does. I should, I think that people don't understand that there's, a lot of work associated with getting the funding for solar, maintaining the solar, and then in the end, the, disposing of the solar and having it recycled to the extent that it can be, and, really, decommissioned, for lack of a better word, because
Yeah, and the Green Bank is about managing all that risk for
yes,
communities and for businesses. What do other folks think? What have other folks been thinking?
so I'm opening it up to the floor. What does anyone else think on the Green Bank? Tim?
If we can deal with the purchase agreements, I think that's a great idea. I think it takes away the liability from the town, and it gives us the benefit of what we can produce. I like the whole concept. I wish they would talk more about that than just about either owning it or, whatever. Yeah, I like it. It's a better idea for us if we were to do the purchase agreements and get the.
As
benefit.
long as if we had to get out of the contract, it wouldn't be could be transferred to a new owner.
They generally are. I mean, that's certainly one of the options.
Right. Any
Yeah,
more
I mean,
comments?
has the Board of Education could the Board of Education have a second presentation on this? And could I?
Well,
kind of
they
not-
don't own the buildings and
The-
as far
the
as
Board
I
of
know, they don't
Education
pay for the
doesn't-
electricity.
Never mind.
Right.
Never mind.
I'm not
that's all done
sure.
through the town side.
That's a question. I had somebody post to me and I haven't looked through the whole budget. Maybe Walter, if there's a line for utilities in the Board of Ed budget.
Not that I know of, because you guys handle all the buildings. So.
Yeah, I mean, we're just too good to you, Walter.
Well, it was before my time, before everybody's time.
Well, it's just they're kind of little things that you should be thinking about, but sometimes, you're thinking about so many things that you miss, asking, Wendy, do you know? Okay. Well, maybe that's something that we should ask John Wilcox because he would know right away.
Okay. So what are we saying about follow-ups? We're saying you can bring it up further in council communications.
And I'll bring it up in leadership and I will talk to Kasha.
Okay, and I could draft a message from the Joint Facilities Committee to the council, just kind of clarifying high points that you all could review.
Right. And I think if you reviewed the YouTube, I think that
Yeah.
you would understand the concerns that I had. I did try to clarify.
You also tried to text me. I'm sorry.
I know, I did. I
This is my
did.
big chance and I blew it.
Because, I don't want to misstate stuff. And a lot of the stuff for all these things is confusing, and Green Bank has changed what it does for municipalities and how it functions to me over the past few years from when I
Right.
started clean energy.
Yeah. Muting.
Okay. All right. Any more comments on clean energy and having Green Bank maybe look at a site? I mean, we're going to keep the transfer station, but as far as I know, they don't do the virtual net metering. Do you know that, Melissa? Oh, she's on the line. Okay, next thing.
Sorry, back to you. Back to you. I just
Okay.
hung up on my sister.
No, it seemed to me that they did zero net metering and did not do virtual net metering. So
Okay,
like
no,
the transfer
okay.
station doesn't use a lot of energy, I don't believe. Is that true, Jeff?
Okay, we're gonna have to do a tutorial on this net metering stuff, all right? So
Yes.
virtual net metering is a way to assign electricity from one meter to another,
Correct.
to credit what you produce one place toward another place.
Yes.
Net zero is a whole different concept. You need to take out of your mental bucket there and put it someplace else.
Okay.
And what the Green Bank has evolved to do is called a municipal assistance program, which is this turnkey power purchase agreement. They do other financing. They have the CPACE program, which we subscribe to.
Right, but it seemed like you had to produce the electricity on the site that it was going to be used. And that could be something that I misunderstood. From the
Okay,
Green
but yeah, so that's virtual net metering. And that's a slightly different category. I think what they were pitching primarily, to my knowledge, was the power purchase agreement.
Right, but it seemed like the electricity had to be produced on that site.
Mhm.
Could not be produced on a different site. and
Correct,
go-
under this particular program.
Correct.
Let me review what they actually presented. Let's you and me talk about your questions, and let's come back in and try to devote a meeting where we have enough time that we can kind of building by building, how could this be relevant and what do we want to recommend to the council?
Okay.
Okay, thank
Sounds
you.
like a plan. Maybe we need to have a subcommittee meeting of the clean energy. Thank you.
And
Thank you,
that's
Melissa.
Jaime and a couple facilities. committee.
Tim,
I will.
Yep. getting the head wag from Tim.
You're in?
Okay,
Great.
so the next one is transfer station, and I'm going to turn that over to Jeff and Donald.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I'm back after my a very fun shoulder surgery. So this is again my week 1.5 back. So I'm happy to be back and sitting at home moping around and just feeling in pain. So I'm here. But everybody received a copy of the transfer station
Yes.
map, correct? I'm going to share the screen with me, right? Hold on a second. All right, so everybody can see, correct?
Right.
Yep.
Okay, so what I want to remind folks is that Jeffrey and Ken Boulette and myself met with Marek from Anchor Engineering. This is a concept plan. The end goal of tonight's presentation would be get consensus on whether to move forward with the plan or with some alterations so Anchor Engineering can get going on a design phase of this. There are many things that we can still do in here. So I know the scale is a great debate, but we can put the second scale as an add alternate, or we can do it as a deduct. Put the 2 in and then take 1 out if we really had to for funding and whatever. There's a lot of things to do administratively that we can work around, but my main goal tonight again is to get consensus from you folks about whether you like this, what you don't like, what you like to see, and we can move forward. Another thing about the drawing is that I wanted to point out that everything in the light gray is existing. Okay, so this line where my hand, can you see my hand moving?
Yep.
All right, so that's the existing road that's coming in. Here's the existing shed that you all pull up and you kind of split around. The existing scale is way over here on the plans. This is where electronics are and white goods and Freon kind of stuff like that, and the road that goes around. And here's the stations up here where you pull up and you jump things over the edge. Now this is a radical departure from what we currently have, and I'm just going to talk about how you would, again, as a resident or yourself, would come up. You would come up to here. You would engage a stop bar here, and that is to make sure that people coming this way aren't going to smash into you. So you're going to have to stop here, and we would allow you forward either onto the scale, which is going to have a stoplights here, green light, red light, green, and all these 4 here, either wave you on, or if you wanted to go just to get cardboard, which is free now, you would pull off in the unloading area and you'd be able to dump your cardboard in, or your white goods or your electronics, which we don't charge for. So you would just pull off over here, unload into the bins that are here, then turn around and drive away and off you go. If you had to go over the scale and needed to use one of the boxes over on the unloading dock area, you'd come up over the scale, you would go down this new road and continue around this way as you normally would, go dump your stuff, then go back on the outbound scale, pay or not pay, whatever you got to do, and go off. So in here, we would have, this is going to be where the loader parking is. Right now, we parked the loader, as you may know, over on closer to Town Farm Road and down that end. We're going to bring it up here, which we can have electricity to plug it in for the wintertime. We are allowing for a cardboard compactor here. And the interesting thing is this proposed generator pad. So what we're going to do is, because we only have single phase electric service here, we need 3-phase at a minimum we need 3-phase service to run a compactor. The generators that I was able to get through Chief Fox in the military surplus program, we got 2 15 kilowatt generators that are 3-phase, and they will be able to handle that. The infrequency that we would need the cardboard compactor to run doesn't warrant the massive expense of running a 3-phase service all the way up here. So when this is going to be run, all we do is we turn the generator on, start it up, and we're done, and shut it off. It only takes a few minutes. So that way we can keep the existing electrical service that's there, the single-phase service that's there, without having sort of the huge expense of running 3-phase. Now in this upper corner here, we're also looking, now we are actively working with USA right now, trying to get a better cost for a compactor, a cardboard compactor, because of the amount of money that they charge per pull. So every time they pull, every time we dump, we're just trying to work out better ways to really stop that $150 or so that they charge for us to get rid of things. We're looking into also a bulky waste compactor up in this corner where again, it would be powered by the same generator. And we would try to get the bulky waste compactors are doing, I think, Jeffrey, if I'm correct, 4-to-1 on the compaction. So we could be saving basically 75% of every single pull that we have, because most of the bulky stuff that's in here, we're getting charged. We have hundreds and hundreds of pulls last year for, it was 89 or 90, almost $90,000 in having USA come and pull the thing for us. So by at least cutting that by 75%, that's why we're doing that for the bulky waste compactor up in this corner. All these other dumpsters have remained the same, but again, the flow pattern. So once you come off here, so you would either enter the scale, or if you didn't have to way out, like if you were doing yard waste down below, you would just drive right by and off you go. So there's many other functions here. So it's just, to me, it's just a much better layout. And again, it's sort of, again, it's such a departure that it's something that's hard for folks to really get how much of a change it is. But I think for flow and for other reasons, we can have everything is central. The scale operators can look at folks that are actually dumping this stuff in here. The boxes will be open to the scale house. There shouldn't be any shenanigans, or it's keeping it like right now. The cardboard is down through here, and it's just kind of hard to keep an eye on people. People are dumping stuff on the ground. Just people are leaving stuff down in the back area here. We just find a lot of things that are going on with having such a central location and up on sort of a little different platform. The scale operators have clear view of all the dumpsters, all the scales, and coming in everything in view here, and only people can get out that way. There's no people driving. Sometimes people would drive around and out this way, and out they go. None of that now. Everything's going to be controlled. Everything's slowing down, and everything's going to be happening within, again, this kind of the nurse area. They're still working on what to provide for sanitary facilities. Whether it's going to be a septic system or whether it's going to be contained within the building, they're still working on that. But again,
I did, so I don't know why they put this one over here.
Gina, mute yourself. Oh, there you go. Thank you.
And I don't know how to send it up here because
Yeah, Don, I like the concept. I think it's good. It's got good flow to it and back around.
Right, and the best thing is that we can tailor all of the administrative things. Like I said, we know that the scale is a huge debate. We understand, right. But again, we have that option of putting it into the spec as either an adult or a deduct alternate, and it's just using the same thing. We can, if we want to afford it, we can put it in and it'll go in. And if not, then we'll have to make that judgment later on. But everything is again, it's hard I just got to get people to understand that this is such a great departure, and it has better flow, because there's so many things that we get clogged up on. And this part, if you can see where my hand is kind of moving around opposite the scale where the electronics are and stuff, things just get clogged up. If we got to drive by, people are there. It's just kind of a mess, and it is so tight there. Here it allows, again, an unloading area. People can just park their cars. We can we can wave them on and just say, pull over here, and off you go. And we don't have to bother with any of the scales. And the more cars we can keep off the scales, the less time it is for other people to come in and out of the transfer station. So again, that's just the main real concept of the area here. And again, if there's small details, we haven't got into the minutia of any of the stuff. Again, I've been really talking with Monica about grading. I need to make sure that all these contours work. And he said, don't worry about that now. We'll make it work. That's what I'm already thinking forward, because of all there will be some grading and other work, but we do have plenty of material around. If we have to beef up some areas, there's plenty of stuff to be had at the transfer station already. So we can use that. But again, it's just the main general concept of it. And I'm really welcome to any comments or concerns, or if anybody wants to.
Donald?
Yep.
It's Tim. Being a frequent visitor there and an old retired guy, I can definitely see the efficiencies that are there that aren't there currently. When you spoke at the beginning, you talked about we can either put both scales in or one scale in or pull one out at the end. I would say put both in. The one scale doesn't work now. It won't work when you make it a little bit more efficient either. So I would leave it in and kind of fight to keep it. And if it gets pulled out, it gets pulled out. But I wouldn't do that. I like the idea of what you're doing in terms of the cardboard, the white goods, and so on. It's really a pain in the neck to do it right now, and that you also end up going up over the scale to get there. This is super, the way they're working it out. And I like the way you designed it. I had a couple of questions, and they may, not be that's sharp, but I know you're bringing in water and electric. Are you bringing in like fire hydrants and things like that? Because I don't think there's currently really water at the site. We talked about that before. Is that correct?
We had some great discussion about the size of the water main that was to go there. And I think for budgetary reasons, we're going to stick with a 2-inch. We're going to stick with a 2-inch water main from Town Farm Road. Now, when you first pull in off Town Farm Road, there's a fire hydrant that's on the southwest corner. That is where there's already a curb stop next to that. So we already have basically a water line already ready to go right there. We can tap off of that and we can run that 1,700 feet all the way. It would be coming up all the way up the road, which we don't have here, but it'll come all the way up the road and it would terminate somewhere in here. For that, again, to feed the bathrooms and stuff in here and the water fountain. We are going to provide a 2-inch water hydrant, a yard hydrant for the fire department right now. So we've had great discussions with the fire department about it. They're thrilled that we're going to give them a 2-inch one. They would use that primarily just to put out a car fire or a dumpster fire, because right now a 6-inch water main is just extraordinarily cost prohibitive. And we could have put a standard hydrant in with a 6-inch, but it's just going to be really cost prohibitive. It's going to be double to triple the cost of a 2-inch line. With that 2-inch line, we can also run a small 3/4-inch line to the dog park and cross the road and give water to the dog park with that. Again, the amount of water usage that will be here is just for our staff, and it's really not going to be high. So it should work out perfectly well with a 2-inch main going through there. We did speak with Hazardville Water about pressures and friction loss and all that kind of fun engineering stuff. And they said, no problem, we'll have enough. We'll have enough pressure, we'll have enough water with 2-inch to supply, again, the transfer station and the dog park. Now, again, we're just going to put that yard hydrant somewhere where, again, if the fire department needed it, we would have some access for it. But at that time, nobody's going to be going over to scale if there's a fire or whatever it is. So we're just we'll cite that after and we'll worry about that after. But that's the intent right now.
I think you answered the electric issue. I had a question, and because I kept seeing signs up here that we're sitting on top of an aquifer.
Yep.
Okay. I assume you're going to do a septic system of some kind in there. Is that any problem there, or?
Well, we're in the aquifer protection area, so we again, that is up to the engineer to decide whether we do something like holding tanks or something big for the underneath the scale house, or we run it out as a septic system. That's for them to kind of figure out what is through permitting and everything else to handle that. Again, that's the fun part. That's the getting in the weeds part.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine, and that's totally again, he just hasn't figured out what direction would be the easiest way to go in the aquifer protection area.
Thank you very much. It looks good. It really looks good.
Thank you, Tim.
Anybody more hands up?
Yeah, I got mine, Doug.
Okay, Doug, go ahead.
Yeah, Don, I think it looks good and it gives good flow and everything, especially, since we started with it and kind of ended up here. That's really good. One thing is on the employee parking, do you think it would be more effective for the employees to maybe have some parking in front of the scale house somewhere in there where they wouldn't have to, especially in the winter when it snows and they show up in the morning, then to to trug across all that stuff, across the scale and everything to get to the scale house. Just a thought, or maybe behind it, whatever.
Yeah, so we were, again, where the hydrant we were thinking about doing, or where the septic system is and how we're gonna gain access to this type of building. We may have a walkway that's just gonna go through here, so we just wanna leave this as much open view as possible. And this area here is a little tight, and we just need to be able to have people, when they're coming up this way and when they're kind of loading here, we need to have people a clear view to them. So we talked it over with staff, and right now they're totally comfortable having something where they are, right where this depicts it right now. So we've engaged all of our transfer station staff as well as Ken Boulette. So we've been asked, we've showed them these plans. Ken's met with them personally. The architect has met with them, or the engineer, I'm sorry. So we've had our input, and they're really good with what we do here as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's what was one of my questions too, if you met with staff, but that's a great idea, because that's how this whole thing kind of generated, what they're working in now and stuff like that. So.
Yep, that's how we did it. Yep.
Okay, good. No, I think it looks good, and I'm for moving it to the next step.
Thank you, Doug.
Great.
Any more comments, questions?
Well, looks good.
All set? Okay. What kind of paving are they suggesting, Donald?
Blacktop.
Or is that weeds?
Blacktop.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's going to be the most cost effective in around that area. Depending on how much of ramping is required, it might be better to go concrete if we have to ramp up high, but these are will be pretty much at grade. So should be not much grading up, like you're not going to be driving up a 4 or 5 foot ramp like we are now and have it so high up in the air. I think the goal is to keep it almost on grade as possible. So we're not that much of
So we don't have to do anything special for the weight of the trash vehicles and anything else that comes in there?
Well, when we design pavement, it's done by ESALs, or equivalent single axle loads. So the biggest thing you got to worry about is we might have to get a traffic count of how many trucks, our trucks come in, and the tractor trailers. Cars, when we do ESAL evaluations, don't do anything for it. You can have 100,000 cars. It's not going to change the thickness of the pavement. You have one truck, every day, it could change the thickness of the pavement. So that's something that the engineers will do. We do have some truck traffic, and again, when our trucks are going out of there, but that will be all calculated in there. I don't see it being much more than 5 inches of blacktop. Now, on the roadways, we put down 4. So, this isn't Mullen Road, if you will. I mean, Mullen Road, we got 9.5 inches of pavement out there because it's Mullen Road.
Right.
We're not going to have that much truck traffic. They're pulling 100 trucks a day. So that's why that pavement is so thick. Here, I think we could probably still stay in the 4 to probably to 5 inch range. And that's why it's going to be the most cost effective.
Okay. And I'm in favor of showing the 2 scales and having a deduct alternate.
Yes, I agree with that. I didn't mention that, but yes.
Yeah,
I agree. I think we should be trying to push the second scale, having some conversation about it and going from there.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. An add alternate always, to me, it's a little bit more expensive to add something in, and
it's easier not to take it.
That's right.
That's right.
Psychological. Okay. Yeah. Because I'm
Donna?
always the big complainer over the potholes that's on the ramp.
Donna?
Yep. Go ahead.
Oh, hi, it's Marie. I'm in favor of both scales. Donald did mention something that we're going to have a savings with the generator back there so that USA doesn't haul everything. So maybe we can do a comparison and say, well, we're going to save 75% of that. So that maybe can pay for the scale.
Good point.
Right. And I think we've also talked about pulling them ourselves as well at DPW.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we can show a savings to say that, well, this will pay for it.
Yeah, and DPW.
Also, I like less work. If we can do one thing and it makes it less less of a burden to do something else. That's always a good thing.
Yep, I agree.
This is
Don, if,
Charlotte, go ahead.
if
I-
if it ended up without a scale, a second scale there, you'd have to reconfigure the access and everything too, because you got to weigh in and weigh out, right?
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Charlotte, you're next.
I like all of it, except for the second scale part. I've done a lot of research lately, and I have not found anywhere around us that uses 2 scales. So I'm all for all of it, except for the second scale. That's just me, though.
What's your misgiving? Because you probably know way more about it than I do, for example. Can you say what bothers you about it?
I mean, why do we have to pay for another scale if we don't need it and nobody else has one? That's redundancy, really.
It's the way out scale and the way in scale.
Yeah, one weighs your vehicle on the
Yeah,
way in and one on the way out.
There are
But what are other towns you're comparing it to the same size as Enfield?
Manchester, East Windsor.
So you can't really, you have to
Chatham.
take out the smaller towns. I think it's kind of like when we compare for the school board, we have to compare things that are in our DERG.
Well,
You
I
want to
agree.
compare the
We don't
same
have a
size
DERG
towns.
for- Yeah, well,
And would they be
Manchester's
doing
pretty
it now? Are they new?
equitable.
I mean, if it's a project that they're just doing now, would they have a second scale versus they just don't have a second scale because their transfer station scale is 20 years old? I don't actually know the answer, but
I don't know the answer to that question, but that's
Well,
just.
I'm in favor of the second scale because I don't like waiting 45 minutes when there's 3 people in front of me.
I agree. I agree.
This is
I'm a
Scott.
frequent flyer at the transfer station.
I'm right
No,
behind
I
you.
agree. I agree with that.
Yeah. I'm in favor of a second scale, and if we don't put it in now, that we at least footprint where it's gonna go, because we'll never get it if we don't plan for it down the road. So like you said, make it
Yeah.
an adult, but
And
I mean,
the
if we-
time for getting it all approved is now, and maybe it's a minor expense in the scheme of things that'll benefit us.
Right.
Donald,
I-
how much will we save if we don't use the second scale? What's the cost of the second scale?
70 footer could be 55 to 70,000.
Okay, so once again, I'm gonna ask the question, if we're saving money on the generator, or we start pulling ourselves instead of you doing USA, I mean, there's a comparison. So in the first year, we could possibly pay for that scale.
In theory, yes.
Okay,
That's
so
a very good
maybe
point.
that's the way we need to present it.
Yeah, again, there's a if we did these things, we would be saving money. We'd be saving money by getting, like you said, by doing our own polls and compacting and doing all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But there's also the convenience thing, like folks on a Saturday, you've all been up there and you all know what it's like waiting in line,
Yeah.
There's that whole thing, it's almost, what do you put a price on that stuff to get more people in and out? Granted, on a random Tuesday morning at 10:20, would we need 2 scales? Probably not. But Thursdays, sometimes, get Fridays, Saturdays, and long weekends where, it's just, you got to factor in that. And also, if one of the scales does go down, we're not charging $7 for unlimited dumping over there because you can dump for free once the scale goes down. So now we have a backup.
That needs to go away.
Yeah, I
Well,
agree.
Well, that's another thing that we can discuss again, I think in subcommittee, Donna, is that.
Yeah, we need to discuss if the scale goes down, it
Either
has to be
we can
like
close up
$50 or $100.
Or we just close the gates. I mean, that's the other option is we close the
Yeah.
gates and that's the end of it. You know what I mean? So again, I think that's a, legitimate concern again is what happens when the scale goes down. But again, right now we have generators now, we'll have access to all that. and we'll have a newer electrical system. So hopefully that'll prevent some of that, but it's, again, it won't take away a lightning strike and blowout, but we have those generators now.
Right. And the other thing we got to remember, that existing scale is X number of years old and it's getting worn. So if we have to take it down for maintenance and stuff for the same reason, you at least have a backup scale to run it. And eventually that old scale will have to be replaced anyways at some point in history.
Right, and I mean, that could be the moving that one could be the outbound scale. That you know, however long it's used, because most of the people are going to be using the inbound, so.
Right, right. I think we definitely need to plan in the two scales, and if anything, have an alternate deduct to not go with it.
That's easily accomplished.
Susanna, moving on to item 2, any agenda?
Well, it's not very easy because you're going to have to, if the deduct takes the scale out, you also got to reroute the traffic pattern. So it could end up being an ad.
Well,
you're going to have to fit the cost into that to reroute it too.
Right. You're going to have to change your flow patterns.
Right. I mean, so right where these concrete barriers are, right where that is now, we can lop that off. There's ways that I wouldn't worry about that.
But that'll be in the deduct will be the ad part to change that.
Right. That would all be part of the deduct, would be to, you know, remove the scale and either add some more barriers here, or, you know, make this 24 feet instead of 15.
Right.
That's really, I'll take care of all that on that side. So.
Okay.
Okay.
You need a motion or something to go forward with it, or?
Well, I really need a either consensus or a motion, however Donna wishes to proceed, is that on this concept here, with something, I got to be able to present it, because the engineer doesn't want to keep going, you know, back and coming back and whatever it is. We can, if this is what you folks are looking for, I can get this going, and then we're going to go right to construction documents and design. That's what we're going to do.
Donna, for record, why don't I'll make a motion that we move forward with the current conceptual plan using the two scales and move it forward.
Okay.
I second it.
Can I have a
Tim.
second on that?
I'll
Tim.
second.
Okay. Tina, can we have a roll call vote, please?
All right, Donna Susek,
4.
Walter Crucell,
4,
Gina Sakala,
4.
Cindy's not on, Marie Peisner,
4.
Scott Ryder,
4.
Tim Neville,
4,
Doug Maxellen,
4.
Tina LeBlanc,
4.
Wendy Costa,
4.
Charlotte Riley, against, Bethany Olet,
4.
okay.
Okay, so we have 1 against, and is that 11-4? No, 10-4.
10-4.
Cindy is not here. Okay, any more? Let's go on to the master plan. We have BL Company coming on the 19th, I believe. And they will be they have an hour, and it'll be a presentation and to the council. Is there any things that you want addressed by BL, or any concerns or anything? You know, Jeff meets with them and talks with them, so if we can, you know, I see hands of anybody who would. You all saw the presentation.
I think at this point we present it as we saw it and get the council's flavor on it.
Okay.
Hey, Donna,
Tim?
is that council meeting going to be open to the public?
Yes, it's open to the public, but it has a limited public, you know, access. I think that it's 7. I think public can be in the chambers, and don't quote me on that because everything changing. And Marie, you came and spoke before the council.
There are 7 chairs. My question, and I'm not sure because I believe it's tomorrow that we go into phase 3.
Correct.
So
That's why I don't know.
Indoor, I'm not sure if that's going to add a few more seats. But yeah, currently it is 7 seats and we're very well spaced. We do have to wear a mask through the entire meeting. Unless you're going up to speak, you wear it and then you can take it off when you speak. But again, we are going into phase 3. I don't know how that's going to sit as far as if we're going to be able to add in a few more people. I'm not sure. Don't have that answer.
Okay.
Any other? I mean, it seems to be working fairly well, the blended with a majority of the council in the chambers and having public have access to the chambers to speak to the council, and presentations seem to be going fairly well.
Well, I mean, the other thing too is you can chime into the meeting and actually have a voice, because they always say, is there anybody out there that wants to say anything? So for people who still feel uncomfortable being inside, you can still call in and have a voice there as well.
I don't believe so, Marie. The call-in
No,
is
I don't think so.
is
That's
what
what
reflected into the meeting.
Well, why
I
are
was
they
only
listening
referring
if
to the
there anybody that
counselors on
has
the
any
line.
questions?
No,
those
Yeah,
are
to
the
the
counselors
counselors.
that have called in.
Just to the
Okay,
counselors.
I
on the line.
last meeting,
apologize
there
then.
was
I
3
thought
of
it was
us.
other people had the option to call in. I
No,
apologize.
no, we didn't know.
Nope.
No, they have to appear in the chamber in order to be heard.
Okay, I apologize.
That's okay.
My boo-boo.
That's all right. So were there any glaring problems with the presentation or any things that you think that BL, I think for the fact that we're a moving target, I thought they did a good job of listening
I
and
agree.
adjusting and
Yeah.
meeting.
Donna, this is Gina. So, I mean, I
Sure.
think I think we submit it and present it as it is, but I will say that I'm really not sold on doing anything like they were talking about at Fermi. I'm not sold. I don't think that's the right move. I don't really know that there's room in Alcorn that they say there is, but at this point, they've done a lot of work on it. Let's present it, and let's be honest,
Well,
none of this is going to happen this year
that
anyway.
they've showed us is that the annex is a viable building and the skin and the layout of that building can be changed. And I have to agree with you. I think there probably are things that they could have done that maybe a little less, like maybe not worry so much about the interior rooms that don't have any light and use them as our storage rooms. I think for me, that was one thing that, and then we wouldn't be, but I think it needs to be a whole big picture and we are a moving target on that. But I think it shows that the annex is a viable building and that we are using it, and we maybe have to somehow figure out how we go forward with it. Anything else?
Donna?
Yep, Doug?
So after we present it to the council, what are we expecting back from the council on the presentation?
I think at this point, we need direction as to what I'm hoping for. I guess I'll share what I'm hoping for because, we know that the annex is just a huge project. I mean, maybe what I'm hoping for is they take away that we saw the Jablonski as becoming a focal point where our EMS can go, where our the dog facility can go, where we're going to join those lots, and we're going to move all our personnel to the Jablonski, and they even have an interim plan where some of our personnel can be at the annex, which is much closer than Prospect, in the interim of getting this ready to move forward with a referendum. So maybe that's what my hope is, and that the fact that, the annex needs to be vetted a little bit further, and that there are buildings like I do believe that our social services will stay in Thompsonville and will probably go to the Enfield Express, and that building should be able to be sold. So there's a lot of things that I think that I would like the council to take away from this. And
But I mean, are we looking for them to say, okay, let's vote on moving forward, or is it just gonna sit and go in the back paperwork and someday it'll surface or something like that? You know, all our work to get it to this point, we should expect something from the council, either no, scrap it, throw it in the trash, throw the money out we spent or whatever, or yeah, go forward, or put together some budget numbers to move forward, or come up with conceptual drawings that are a little more detail.
we have conceptual for the Jablonski.
I think we need to ask them to do something other than just a presentation. Otherwise, it's just going to be that. It'll be a movie and it'll go away.
I agree.
Well, it
with
goes
you, Doug,
away
but
if
what
we
I-
don't keep at it. Gina, go
True.
ahead.
No, that's all right. I mean, I don't disagree with you, Doug, but what I think is, Donna, Charlotte, and I have a lot of working knowledge of this project. The other 8 people on the council aren't going to. So we're going to need to really go back to our respective caucuses and go through the presentation with them.
Okay.
Yep.
Deputy Mayor, may I make a comment?
Go ahead.
Well, I think out of this meeting, depending on how the council and, people think about it, some of these interim things that BL has suggested, a lot of these things we can do kind of internally, and I think this would give the committee through council and the town some direction, and that would, that could help facilitate some of the movements on some of the other projects, because not all these items are necessarily, out of our, in-house. We could do them in-house. So I just want to remind people, a lot of these things we can do in-house with our staff that's currently on. We've been kind of looking at some things, and I'm not sure if this piece belongs in this section or it's more for new business, but kind of going on with the Jablonski and the central fuel yard, I wanted to kind of bring up looking into that a little bit more in depth, because we're kind of at a tipping point with EPD not being replaced. We're closing that site. Now we are a single site fueling yard at Moody Road today.
Okay.
So I would like to look into that. And I mean, I can wait for, new business or the next meeting, but I was kind of looking to have some support from the committee and do some feasibility studies for maybe putting it out on that front green yard. Like, again, erasing lot lines as we talked about. And again, this is all something internally we can handle in bits and pieces in the phasing for the bigger, bigger scope. So, that's just my takeaway.
Okay, similar to, I think Jeff, you put a better spin on it than I did, that, you actually have garnished information that we can start to move towards this without having, building expansions and things that would need to go to referendum. And again, this is something that, the canopies could be looked at by Green Bank.
I have a question.
Sure, Melissa.
In light of what we were talking about earlier, do we want to ask BL maybe in the presentation to have 2 sentences at the most, just saying, as we do this assessment, we will take into account opportunities for renewable energy, period. Don't dramatize it, don't make it a central discussion, but just don't omit it. Just because we want to get
Yeah.
the message that this is.
Well, because they did say if we wanted that particular site to be energy independent, for lack of a better thing to describe it.
I mean,
we
just
would have to
whatever,
put solar on the roof as well.
Yeah, just that they shouldn't, in any presentation they make, they shouldn't omit that topic.
Right. Tim?
I guess I'm concerned. I like what's going on here. I think getting it out before the council and showing them what's possible is important. But I don't want to get a thank you very much for your efforts, guys. I know you've been working on it for a year, and put it on the shelf with the other 5 plans, okay? Then nobody's going to get involved with these committees, okay? There's no reason to, Okay, I don't expect them to say, give us a blank check, but I would expect them to come through and say, that's a good idea. Maybe that's something we could do on our own and stuff like that, and it could work out, because we have needs with the fuel section that has to get done. We have needs with other things that have to get done. The green bank is something else that could get done and save us energy, even if you have to do it on a piecemeal basis. But to put it on the shelf, in my mind, would be offensive after all the work that people have done. So
I don't see it getting put on the shelf, but that's just
Good.
me.
Yeah, I think
Tim, this is Tim. I don't know, Tim. I agree with you, but let's be honest. You saw what happened with the roof referendum. This ain't going anywhere. Let's be honest.
I'm just stating an opinion. That's all.
And I agree with you.
Thank you.
Well, the thing is that with this, I mean, I've listened to, 4 town managers tell me that, the Jablonski needs to be, the Prospect Street needs to be moved. All that staff and everything needs to be over at the Jablonski. I mean, I don't know how many more town managers I need to listen to tell me that. So, the roofs, apparently, there wasn't enough in it for people to actually bite into it. They, and next year there'll be a contingency that will go for roof and windows. And that's what I'm hearing. So, and not things just because they don't move forward today doesn't mean they don't move forward tomorrow.
I agree.
And I guess, we have to keep the, paving the road, and that's just what we're doing. And the thing is that we need to not go away, and we need to keep at what we feel people need to look at. And I think sometimes, presentations, go and, people don't get, everything perfect, but we keep at it. It's just like the green bank. We keep at it till somebody understands what we're asking for and what the opportunities are.
But does it make sense to at least go in and just, quote unquote, ask for permission to go to the next step, which is this, something that we can do on our own, low dollar, big impact, be it the police fueling station, whatever it is, but truly say this is what we're looking for, and it may not happen in that meeting just because, as Gina says, you're gonna have to go back to your caucuses and explain the whole thing and whatever. But I mean, I think it's got to be slightly more than a presentation, but not asking for the world, because we're not going to get a blessing on the entire plan because of the affordability.
Tim, how many years ago did we ask for a facilities person? We weren't in the
That's so
meeting
long.
15 minutes and we knew what we needed, but we just kept asking and we kept showing why we needed it. And eventually, we're to a point where we're doing things better than we were before. We couldn't even get ready to ask for a roof referendum before.
Donna, you're starting to sound like a politician.
I know.
I guess, Donna, for me, I just appreciate your tenacity, because I'm frustrated because I feel like this committee works so well and you worked so well. I'm lucky to be on it with you. And it just seems like the doors are constantly getting closed in your face. And I think what bothers me the most is that there's cost up front, but then in the long run, it's a money saving experience for the town. So it's kind of maddening, because we're kind of turning our wheels and we want to be able to save money, but at some point you have to invest in order to get that money savings
You have
back.
to spend money to save money. And,
Right.
and that's always the difficulty.
Right. And I think what the committee looks at is a long-term savings and a long-term plan, which many people fault, both slates that run for in November, that we don't have a long-term plan. So I think those initial figures are pretty scary, but you have to, on the town council, people have to open up their minds and realize that it's eventually to do good and to save the town money and to bring the town into another step, so.
Right. Moving forward. Bethany?
So, like everyone else, I think, we've done a lot of work on this plan, and BL's done a lot of work, and don't want to see it go to waste. I think there's a lot of good there. My question is, how do we keep it on the radar? you know, because I think that's a big concern. So how do we make sure it stays on the radar?
I think the size of this committee and the fact that they meet so regularly keeps it more on the radar. I think that this committee and its commitment does keep it on the radar. I don't know.
I think we
But
could
I am a
also
little
be-
stubborn, Tina, I have to
Maybe
admit.
just once we go through this presentation and like Jeff said, if we can handle some of the stuff in-house, then just updating it as we go and then having to communicate that out, whether it's through the communications that Scott's doing or another presentation or update to the council, just so they can see that we're still trying to push this plan forward and that we're able to start doing some of it, but
And you know, our directors do that. You know, Jeff and Donald meet with the town manager and then they do budget. I think that's something that, you know, you get this presentation and then at budget time, you know, they're gonna say, we're gonna do this, this, and this. And, you know, possibly it starts to tie together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are there, do reporters typically cover our council meetings these days? They used to.
I'm not sure.
Because I
Well, we
think
haven't
that-
had one in 8 months.
Hmm?
We haven't had one in 8 months.
No, but I
It's the
mean,
last- it's
even
the
our
last one.
Zooms or whatever, but I think it should not be too hard to get a little bit of press about this stuff. And it shouldn't be too hard to, you know, in addition to updating the council and updating through staff, you know, take turns banging out a letter to the editor every now and then. Kind of keep it out there.
Well, maybe they could do something like the transfer station. I mean, just a press release. Walter?
The reporters do get our agendas and they do watch on YouTube, and that's how they produce stories. That's the most of the time you see a story in the JI, it's from them watching the council or the board of ed. But they do get our agendas when they get mailed out packets. So
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be bad for one of the chairs or Scott or somebody to every now and then send a little cover note to the reporters that cover us the most. Just saying, by the way, did you notice? Here's what we're up to. Help them frame it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big takeaway from this whole BL study is, you know, like Donna said, right now I'm already looking at budget for next year. This is what I'm starting to plan and hunker in. If we can, you know, use this as a conversation starter to see where we are, you know, what's long term. If I'm planning 10 years out and we have a 5-year window, we might want to get out of something. I might not want to invest in a brand new elevator car or, you know, redo the boiler plant. I could put that capital elsewhere. And again, you know, a lot of these projects, you know, I think with, you know, like I said, the fuel, you know, will it be exactly, you know, as they showed conceptually at DPW with this big elaborate fuel island? Not necessarily, but, you know, having committee support and saying, yeah, we want to do something here at DPW, you know, I can start vetting out, you know, conceptuals and start planning, you know, over the next 3 years, saving a little bit of money. It's going to be a big project regardless, because DEEP's going to make me pull the tanks out in 2024, I believe they're due. So it's early enough now where we can get the money, do some research. And I've been talking with Donald about this, and you know, this helps me plan long-term where to invest, how to invest. And I think the committee's input, the support, the communications with council, and I think it's a very good conversation starter, because it just helps, you know, me as, you know, in the facilities, and Donald, you know, how we plan, where we really want to, you know, invest heavily, and where, you know, we just want to, you know, maintain, because, you know, it might not have the same outlook, you know, 3-5 years from now.
Okay, any more comments?
and just remember, it is all conceptual, but we take the conceptuals and we turn them in. You know, we have, just like the transfer station. This one he presented today looks nothing like the one we handed him from a couple years ago. So you know, we get somebody put another set of eyes on it later on, and it may come up with a different way. But it, like he said, we have to plan for it. So
Right, we got to start the conversation and continue the conversation. Any more? Do we have any invoices? Oh, do you have any communication stuff, Scott? Are you doing your standard?
I am. I'm doing as I do. I'd like to
Good.
share more of this stuff. But to Melissa's point, so like a communication from me per se wouldn't go to the press. It would have to come from the committee lead. So that's a good suggestion that we go out there and we tell people this is what we're doing, this is what we're thinking. But if we all don't agree on a plan or get the town council on board to agree with the plan that we suggest to them, then it just looks like fractions and even more people like these people think this, but the council doesn't think that. And so,
Right.
yeah, a unified message from us as a group would be great. But that would have to come from Donna,
Yeah.
or Donna would have to do a draft and we could bless it as a line item
Right.
on the next meeting, et cetera.
Okay, well, let's see how,
Yeah.
let's get some feedback from the council and let's see, before we draft everything and we start deciding what we're gonna do, we have to remember we're not the council. We're the infrastructure people. So I kind of, it's just like with the Green Bank. I think we need a little bit more educating on everybody's behalf. I think that's something that I would like to see move forward. Okay, do we have any invoices? 'Cause I have no new business. I don't know. I didn't receive any invoices. Are we all?
So
Paid
far,
up
we're all up paid.
Okay, great. All right, committee comments? Any more? Next meeting date, 6 o'clock, working better for everybody?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Happy at 6 o'clock? Oh, great. Okay, good. So it'll be on the 22nd at 6.
Got it.
And again, we're still gonna be this. I know a lot of other committees have started to do a half virtual, half, in person. But for me, I feel this is working okay for this committee. Is there any problems anybody's having?
No,
No.
It's fine.
I think for now this works.
I think so. I just feel like, we were very uncomfortable at first, and now I think we're all getting used to looking at each other on a screen and looking for hands being raised, and, we're learning to mute ourselves and everything else, so,
Gina, where are you sitting, on top of a mountain?
No, I'm at Andrew's baseball game.
Oh, okay.
It's a little chilly there.
It's so cold.
You look cold. Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, Walter and Marie, all in favor, raise their hands.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Stay safe.
Good job, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah.